No, you want to around? Get off! Get off! Get off! Oh, fuck you! Get off! Get off!
It started as an ordinary evening for a young schoolgirl in Britain. She had finished her classes, caught the bus home, and like millions of children around the world, she decided to stop at McDonald's to grab a meal. Nothing could have been more normal, more innocent, or more relatable. But what happened next turned this simple act into a national scandal. According to reports, she was stopped, questioned, and eventually arrested under new restrictions that dictated young people were not permitted to purchase fast food after 5 p.m. The story spread like wildfire. Parents were horrified, teenagers were outraged, and ordinary citizens were left speechless. How could a free country criminalize something as trivial and human as a schoolgirl buying a cheeseburger? To many, it felt like a symbol of everything that was going wrong, a government so out of touch that it no longer understood the lives of the people it was meant to serve. As the news broke, anger began bubbling on social media. Hashtags demanding justice for the girl trended within hours. Videos of protests outside McDonald's outlets flooded TikTok. Parents shared stories of their own children feeling fearful and anxious about stepping outside. The arrest wasn't just a local issue anymore. It had become a metaphor for government overreach, for misplaced priorities, and for a system that seemed to value control over compassion. And then into this storm of fury stepped one of the most influential voices in the world, Elon Musk. The billionaire entrepreneur, known not only for Tesla, SpaceX, and his relentless pursuit of innovation, but also for his outspoken presence on social media, decided he had seen enough. In a series of sharp, explosive comments,
You're saying, I think the number of people that have been arrested for just social media posts is bananas. It's in the thousands.
Yes, several thousand people have been given prison sentences in the UK for social media posts where there was no explicit link to actual violence, but they just said it encouraged violence. We're like, well, did anyone actually do anything as a result of that media post? Well, no. But they just, and then they have a prison overcrowding.
Musk directed his outrage at Britain's Prime Minister, Sir Keir Starmer. His words weren't measured. They weren't diplomatic. They were blistering, direct, and impossible to ignore. Musk asked a question that echoed in the hearts of millions. Since when is eating after school a crime? He followed with an even sharper blow, saying, if a government thinks arresting a child for buying McDonald's is leadership, then that government has lost its way. The comments immediately went viral. News channels across the world began running the headline, Elon Musk blasts UK Prime Minister. Clips of his statements spread like wildfire on Twitter and YouTube. Within hours, millions had engaged with his posts, and the outrage that had begun in Britain now had a global spotlight shining down upon it. What makes Musk's intervention so powerful is not just his fame, but his symbolism. To many, he represents freedom of thought, innovation, and the courage to question authority. So when he speaks out against something as seemingly absurd as this, people listen. And his outrage magnified the story far beyond British politics. It became a global question of human rights, of freedom, and of what kind of society Britain was becoming under Keir Starmer's leadership. Starmer himself, already under fire for policies that critics say ignore the realities of working-class families, suddenly found himself in an international crisis. It wasn't just British citizens accusing him of being out of touch. Now the world's richest man, one of the most influential voices on the planet, was publicly humiliating him. The fallout was immediate and devastating. Opposition parties in Britain seized the moment, accusing Starmer of turning the country into a laughingstock on the world stage. Parents organized marches outside Downing Street, demanding answers. Meanwhile, global media outlets from New York to New Delhi ran the story, framing it as a clash between authoritarian overreach and individual freedom. For the schoolgirl at the heart of it all, her life was suddenly under the microscope. Strangers held her up as a symbol of innocence crushed by a system gone mad. Her image was painted on placards, her story retold in Parliament, and her experience became the spark for a larger debate about personal liberty. But Elon Musk didn't stop with one post. He continued to question the very foundation of the policy. He He asked why governments that struggle to solve real crises, rising energy costs.
I don't really have any comment on the particular comment that was made this morning by Musk. Thank you. On the question of Elon Musk, look, I think most people are more interested in what's going to happen to the NHS, frankly, than what's happening on Twitter. Those that are spreading lies and misinformation as far and as wide as possible, they're not interested in victims. They're interested in themselves.
Failing infrastructure, stretched healthcare systems would instead focus on punishing children for trivial acts. His words cut deep because they captured exactly what so many citizens felt, that leaders were distracted by rules and regulations that had nothing to do with improving people's lives. And perhaps that is why Musk's intervention landed with such force. It wasn't just about McDonald's or one child or even Britain alone. It was about the idea that governments, if left unchecked, can drift so far from reality that they forget the people they serve. It was about freedom, about fairness, and about the right to live without fear of punishment for ordinary human choices. For Starmer, the damage was immense. His advisors scrambled to control the narrative, issuing statements that the arrest was a misinterpretation of policy, that enforcement had been overzealous,